Welcome to Crime Over Wine Weekly. It's Monday, September 23rd. I'm Heather Holley, and these are your crime headlines. The manhunt for the Kentucky interstate shooting suspect ended after a couple discovered his body in the woods. Investigators say on September 7th, Joseph Couch perched on the cliff's edge and opened fire on drivers on I-75 in Laurel County. 5 people were shot and survived. 11 days later, a couple found a body in the woods near the scene. Authorities have confirmed the body is Joseph Couch's. The medical examiner says he died by a self-inflicted gunshot wound. A Mississippi teen will spend the rest of her life in prison. A jury convicted 15-year-old Carly Gregg in her mother's murder and the shooting of her stepfather. The defense argued Gregg was not guilty by reason of insanity, but the state claims she didn't meet the requirements to be deemed criminally insane. The week-long trial concluded with the jury finding Gregg guilty of first-degree murder, attempted murder, and tampering with evidence. She was sentenced to 2 life sentences without the possibility of parole. Sean Diddy Combs remains in the Brooklyn jail after being arrested on federal charges a week ago. The hip-hop star is charged with racketeering, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. The indictment lists allegations going back to 2008. A judge has denied Combs bail twice, saying the risk of him threatening or harming witnesses was too high a risk. Combs is now on suicide watch. He pleaded not guilty to all charges. Hello everyone, thanks for joining us for another episode of Crime Over Wine Weekly, the best place to get caught up on current crime headlines while sipping on your new favorite bottle of wine. And the whole team is here this week, feels like it's been a minute. Hello, my beautiful partner in crime, Michelle, how are you?
Hello, I'm good, how are you?
Doing pretty good. Can't believe it's officially fall.
I know, and even though in where we live, it was mid-90s this weekend.
I didn't say it felt like fall, just on the calendar, it's fall.
I know. Even though it was so hot outside, I still was like, I have committed to the fall wardrobe. I'm wearing my jeans, I'm wearing boots, I didn't break out the sweaters, but I was breaking out like long sleeve shirts. I'm like, I am falling. I don't care if fall isn't, but I am.
My kids are on the same page. My son is in fleece pajamas because he was so cold. And my daughter is wearing cheetah leggings and bluey boots.
Oh, I love it. She's going to be a fashion icon.
She's going to be some kind of icon. Remains to be seen.
So this week we are staying with the fall vibes with pumpkin spice Chardonnay from Trader Joe's. I saw this on TikTok and I told Heather, I was like, this is what we're doing. Like, this is what we're doing for you, because you are the pumpkin spice girly. I am more of like a apple kind of cider, apple crisp type, but as soon as I did see the pumpkin spice Chardonnay, we had to do it for you.
Thank you. I'm excited. It looks and smells good. It's promising.
Yes. So just by the color, it's more of like a deeper yellow, almost with like some orange into it. And you can definitely smell the pumpkin spice from it, which is different for wine. You know what I mean? You usually don't. Are you okay?
Yeah. I just knocked over my microphone. Sorry.
Oh, well, as long as it wasn't the wine.
No, wine's safe.
So for this wine, it is made with a blend of lightly oaked California Chardonnay wine, delicately sweet Chardonnay grape juice with a touch of natural pumpkin spice flavoring. Each sip is bright, rich, and delicious, just as a California Chard ought to be, with familiar fall festive notes of nutmeg, clove, and cinnamon. And so also the best part, bottle is less than $7. So it doesn't get more basic white girl than that. Right, Heather?
Nope, and we're here for it. We stand a pumpkin-flavored anything cheap, so.
Cheers to that. So let's try this. It's definitely sweet.
Yeah, it's giving more pumpkin cider than,
yeah.
This does not taste like a Chardonnay at all.
No, it doesn't taste like wine.
No, it tastes like a cider. I definitely feel like I could accidentally forget this is a wine and just, keep drinking it and then wonder why I feel so sick.
This is definitely sweet. I won't be able to drink much of it, but
I feel like this is a mixer.
yeah. Like it's almost like you need like some sort of liquor to put into it almost to like
I was gonna
balance it
say
out.
like
I don't
mix
know.
another white with it. That's like
Mhm.
gonna be a little stronger, just to balance it out some.
Like make it yeah, like make a sangria out of it or something.
Yeah,
I do taste the nutmeg and the clove.
that is what pumpkin spice is, by the way. It's just a mixture of those three spices.
Interesting. One of the things that I love to do, especially like during Christmas time, is have like the pot of like water with cranberries, cloves,
Oh, a simmer
cinnamon
pot?
sticks. Like, yeah, I love those, but I'm really bad about forgetting that they're on there, and then they burn to the bottom of your pots, and then you don't have pots anymore.
Very off topic. I saw where someone used a wax melt warmer to do that. Just a much smaller version of it. So maybe you could try that.
Ooh, that is interesting because I do have one of those. I love my little Scentsy. Okay, interesting. So clearly, we are fall basic white girls in this episode.
Ka-chow.
So there's lots to tell you about this week. A lot has happened in the crime world, including where investigators are trying to figure out if threatening text messages could be connected to an Oregon man's disappearance. Plus, a deathbed confession helps bring home a mother and daughter 24 years after they went missing.
An Oregon man has been missing for over a month after receiving threatening text. According to Missing People in America, the last person to see Mark Stevenson was his ex-girlfriend. MPIA says Mark received threatening Facebook messages from her on August 18th. Family last spoke to Mark on August 25th and 29th. However, it's unclear if Mark actually sent the last message. A missing person report was filed with the Eugene Police Department on September 14th. Mark Stevenson is 35 years old, 5'8", and about 240 pounds. He's a white man with curly hair and has several tattoos, including Traveler on his knuckles, 420 under his right wrist, and 219 on his right arm. If you know anything about Mark's whereabouts, contact Eugene Police at 241-682-5111.
It's been 2 years since a Georgia man went missing. 63-year-old Albert Little was reported missing on August 1st, 2022, to the Mitchell County Sheriff's Office. Investigators say Little's last known location was the Mitchell County Justice System. He was released from jail on August 1st. His family says he might have been suffering from a mental health problem. If you have any information about Albert Little, call the Mitchell County Sheriff's Office at 229-336-2030. And this week, my story, it's a sad one in a couple of different ways. It takes place in West Virginia, where a man made a deathbed confession, leading investigators to the bodies of a missing mother and her 10-year-old daughter. Larry Webb had long been a suspect in the disappearance of Susan Carter and her daughter, Alex Carter. The pair were living in Larry's Beckley, West Virginia home when they disappeared in the year 2000. 18 months ago, authorities searched Larry's home and found a bullet embedded in the wall of Alex's bedroom. DNA confirmed the bullet had blood that belonged to Alex. That, along with witness statements, Webb was indicted in October of 2023 with Alex's death. But then Larry's death started to decline, which prosecutors say delayed court proceedings. Larry was moved to a nursing home. While in the nursing home, Larry spoke with one of the investigators and made a, quote, detailed, undeniable, unconflicted confession. Larry said he noticed money in his home was missing while Alex and Susan were living with him. Larry suspected Susan, quote, spent a lot of money, which led to an argument between the pair. Larry said he shot Susan and thought at the time, quote, he knew he had ruined his life forever. Larry said he had no choice but to shoot Alex to, quote, avoid detection. Larry said he wrapped both of their bodies in bed linens and put them in his basement while he dug a shallow grave in the woods on his property. He buried the mother and daughter together. Then, on April 22nd of this year, Larry had a medical episode and died. That same day, investigators found the remains of Susan and Alex. Rick Lafferty, Alex's dad, said the discovery marked a sad day, but he was happy that he could bring his baby home. So, kind of going back into how this was reported and how it was investigated. Originally, Alex was reported missing, and initially it was that the mother had abducted her. And because at the time, Susan and Alex's dad were having a custody dispute, so that kind of always makes it hard for investigators to investigate when you're dealing with custody then. But then fast forward to Larry, he was literally on his deathbed and was looking to meet Jesus. That's what the investigators say. And he wanted to come clean. He wanted to confess what he knew and what he did. And equipment. So after he explained kind of where he had buried them, then equipment operators from a local landscaping company, they volunteered their time and their expertise, and they worked for 3 days with precision, digging up the entire backyard. They went down 4.5 feet, and from what I've read, because I've never had to dig up a backyard before, but you have to do it very particularly, especially when you're dealing with a crime scene, because you don't want to disturb anything and you don't want to miss anything either. So that was why it took so long, but these equipment operators were so invested in helping this family get some answers. And then they're calling it a twist of fate, a poetic ending that not even the investigators could write. They found both of their bodies, and they were still wrapped in those linens. They were found together. Investigators are still working this case. The remains are currently at the state medical examiner's office in West Virginia. And also, since there were so many concerns over how the initial reports of Alex's disappearance went and how they were handled, kind of the FBI and all of the agencies that were involved in this over all these years, they're kind of going back and seeing how could this have been handled better? Why? Because remember, Larry was a suspect the whole time. They just couldn't get enough to to indict him or arrest him. And so but the fact that there was that day 18 months ago when they went and searched his house and they found the bullet in the wall, that had been there this entire time. It's kind of well, had they done that same search all those years ago, that could have been found. You know what I mean? But also, you can't just walk into someone's home and start searching it either. Especially if they don't let you. So, kind of sad case.
That's correct, to have hidden that for over 2 decades. And then, I'm sorry, you want to meet Jesus, but you murdered someone over money. Okay.
Well, and Alex had nothing to do with it. You know what I mean? He said that he had to, his reasoning that he says was he had to kill her to avoid detection, which is kind of you were already a suspect.
Yeah. That's so sad that their lives ended like that for such a silly reason. And the fact that their bodies were found the day he died, that really is poetic justice. And he probably died not knowing they were actually found.
Because he probably lived those 24 years always wondering if today is going to be the day that they come and knock on my door. You know what I mean? And so, did he pass because he was finally able to relax knowing that he confessed? You know what I mean? Like, he's not keeping
Yeah.
this big dark secret anymore, because the stress on that is already like, that's going to take a toll on you mentally and physically.
I'm wondering with the confession if that actually alleviated any guilt. And that's for any case. When you actually confess, does that alleviate any of the guilt? Or do just more people know that you did a bad thing? So if you've ever murdered someone, let us know and confess to it.
Yeah, I can see that, and because it doesn't take away the fact that you took a life, or in this case took two lives, and buried them, and while all this time, while people have been looking, her Alex's dad has been like looking all this time for his daughter, and that doesn't take that away.
Because you mentioned, the dad's comment was at least he can bring his baby home now, but their remains are still with the state medical examiner's office. Are they just doing like the standard autopsy before they release the bodies, since the man who confessed to it is dead?
I think so, and they might be trying to see if they can confirm that that they were shot, that both of them were shot. Trying to see if the clues that they're able to find in the remains match up with the story that he told.
Yeah. I mean, because there is always the case that maybe he made the confession because he knew he was dying, but somebody else actually did it and he wanted to protect them, is always a possibility. I hope that the medical examiner confirms everything so that there really is some peace for at least the dad and any other family members, and may mom and daughter and I guess suspect rest in peace. Still to come on Crime Over Wine Weekly, a father of 4 is missing after leaving home to get baby formula, plus a young pregnant woman's death was originally ruled a suicide, why a former Massachusetts detective is now charged in her death.
Welcome back to Crime Over Wine Weekly. It's been 5 years since a Kansas woman was reported missing. Angela Green was a 51-year-old mother of 1 when she was reported missing in 2019. Family and investigators say Angela, who came to the U.S. from China, kept to herself. She never worked, never had a credit card. She only had been to the dentist twice and the doctor once when her daughter was born. She rarely left home, only to take her daughter to school. When her daughter Ellie turned 19, Ellie went on a study abroad trip without telling her mother. When she returned, she says they got into an argument over the trip and her mother kicked her out. 3 days later, Ellie's father told her Angela checked into a mental health facility against her will. Ellie asked to visit her mom, but her dad wouldn't tell her where she was. News of Angela's commitment was kept a secret from the rest of the family. In mid-July 2019, Ellie's father told her Angela had died. Investigators say he told Ellie her mom had died of a stroke in the facility and that she had to keep it a secret from the rest of the family. Ellie kept the secret for 7 months, but then in February of 2020, Ellie broke the news to other family members. Family members were suspicious and called police. When police got involved, the dad's story changed. The dad denied that Angela was dead. When police came back the next day, the dad said Angela left on her own and that sometimes she does this and doesn't come back for several days. Then, the dad stopped talking to police. Investigators say there is a lack of a paper trail in this case. Angela's phone, keys, and ID were left at home. There's no record of her being forcibly committed to a mental health facility and no death certificate. There's no evidence that she left the country. Investigators have used cadaver dogs around the home, and they did not yield any results. Anyone with information about Angela Green should call the Prairie Village Police Department at 913-642-6868.
Authorities are looking for a father of 4 who disappeared after going out to get baby formula. Antoine Worsham left his Cleveland, Ohio home the night of September 12th to pick up formula for his 4-month-old child. He was spotted in the West Park area around 7:30 that night. Antoine was in a 2010 blue Ford Fusion with military stickers on it and had 3 car seats inside. He was wearing blue jeans, a polo shirt with a teddy bear design, a neon pink t-shirt underneath, and a hat. Antoine's described as a black man with brown eyes. He's 34 years old, 5'10", and about 170 pounds. If you know anything about Antoine's whereabouts, contact Cleveland Police at 216-621-1234. The case I'm sharing this week takes us to Massachusetts, and I will put a trigger warning with this one because we will be talking about sexual violence. Sandra Birchmore learned she was pregnant in late 2020. The 23-year-old's family says she was excited about her baby and immediately started preparing for parenthood. Sandra's cousin says she planned to announce her pregnancy on Valentine's Day. But on February 4th, 2021, the family received heartbreaking news. Police performed a welfare check at Sandra's Canton apartment after she didn't show up for work. The young woman was found dead with a luggage strap around her neck, tied to a doorknob. Sandra's autopsy ruled her death as suicide, but her loved ones never agreed with that. They paid to have their own autopsy performed, which found Sandra's death was a homicide. On August 28th, 2024, a former Massachusetts police detective was charged in Sandra's death. Federal prosecutors say Matthew Farrell strangled Sandra to death and then staged her apartment to make it look like a suicide. Investigators say Sandra had recently told Farwell she was pregnant with his child. The indictment reveals a number of disturbing details, like Farwell groomed and sexually abused Sandra for years. She was 15 and he was 27 when they met in the Stoughton Police Explorers Academy. Investigators say the officer contacted her online and they eventually began having sex, including times Farwell was on duty. According to court documents, Sandra told Farwell she wanted to have a baby in October of 2020, and he agreed to try to get her pregnant as long as she stayed quiet about their relationship. Authorities say Farwell became erratic and dangerous after learning about the pregnancy. Prosecutors say he killed Sandra just hours before his wife delivered their 3rd child. At this time, a blizzard was approaching the region, which Farwell thought would cover for Sandra's absence at work for several days. Farwell's arrest comes 2 years after an extensive internal affairs investigation found he and 2 other officers had inappropriate relationships with Sandra. The IA investigation uncovered hundreds of messages between them that spanned years. The Stoughton police chief says all 3 men resigned before they could be interviewed during the investigation. The department recommended their certifications be permanently revoked so they cannot serve any law enforcement agency in the country. After Farwell's arrest, the Stoughton police chief said, quote, "Sandra Birchmore received no justice during her life. It is imperative that justice be served in her death. Farwell has pleaded not guilty and is being held without bail."
Wow, my jaw is like on the floor right now. It's
what
terrible.
A disgusting abuse of power.
Yeah, I mean, from 15, since she was 15, all the way to when she was 23, and multiple officers, like, oh my gosh.
So the other 2 officers didn't necessarily have sexual relations with her, but they were aware of their relationship and, like, acquaintances, one of them being Farwell's twin brother.
Wow. And it sounds like she was just so excited.
She was. Her birth announcement that she was going to do on social media, her and her friends had made, like, a expecting my own little Valentine signed, made a picture to post on the 14th. So she was really excited to be a mom.
Wow. It may be too early right now, but I'm assuming that her family will probably bring forth lawsuits of their own.
Yes, they filed a lawsuit before he was indicted, just because it was originally ruled as a suicide. Federal investigators say that they won't say why they started looking into the case, but they became interested about a year ago.
It makes you wonder if there have been other victims or something that made them go, let's look at that again.
Yeah.
Well, and I know for victims' families, a lot of times families will say, no, this just isn't right. There's more to this. And hiring your own private investigator is hard because it's expensive. But the fact that they did in this situation, I mean, I would say that paid off.
Definitely. I mean, we still don't know what the outcome of this case will be, but justice is starting to work in their favor so far, with him at least being indicted and in custody. He was pressured enough that he quit, so he's no longer a police officer or able to manipulate any other young women like this.
Wow. You'll definitely have to keep us updated on how that case goes through the court system, kind of what happens once that gets going.
Yeah. And it's a federal case, so I feel like it might move. They seem to move a little faster. They get scheduled quicker.
So I know you talked about it in your headlines, the Carly Gregg trial. I kind of followed it this past week and watched some of the surveillance videos that were played during court and things like that. I originally, because we were texting about it, I thought that a verdict would come this week, but it came down late Friday, which I was very surprised about. I mean, the jury deliberated for 2 hours, so they were all pretty on board with it. And I wonder if it's because of those videos that showed her demeanor at the time of the crime.
Okay, first, I didn't watch the videos, so I don't have the idea of what the demeanor looked like, but if her defense is trying to argue mental insanity, but if you're looking at that video and you can see that it's calculated and she has an idea of what she's doing, and then her demeanor in court and how it comes across, because to reach that verdict, it had to be unanimous. So 2 hours of deliberating to decide that basically a teenager, will spend the rest of her life in jail, like, that wasn't a light burden. So they must have felt very certain.
Yeah. You know, that prosecutors were able to prove that case well, and so that those jurors could apply the law the way that it was supposed to. So that was interesting. And of course, her attorneys will more than likely appeal. I mean, you get a chance at an appeal, like, of course you're going to use it. But I think it's always very interesting in how long it takes a jury to reach a verdict. And if it's a long time, that means that they're not all unanimous about something. But if it's quick, that means that they all agree. So it's always just very interesting. That's always something that I watch, is how long it took the jurors to deliberate. And I mean, for just a week, I mean, it was a quick trial. I thought.
Yeah, like for a murder trial, just 5 days.
So I watched this thing on, I believe it was Netflix. It's called Into the Fire, and it is so interesting. It's about this mom that gave her daughter up for adoption when she was real young, and the mom ends up finding out that she tries to like reconnect with her daughter, and while trying to find her daughter, she ends up finding out that her daughter went missing. And so she then like starts her own investigation to try and figure out where's her daughter. And it is like just pure like mother's intuition, which there's nothing else like it. I will honestly say that there's nothing that will compare to a mother's strength, and nothing that will compare to a mother's intuition. And you really see that in this. It's only 2 episodes, so it's a quick watch, man. And I'm not gonna reveal the ending, but at the end, you're like, damn. So you need to watch it.
Okay, I will add that to my list.
Like, you feel connected to the mom because you can tell, like, she had carried a lot of guilt giving her daughter up for adoption anyway, even though she was like, I was so young, like, I couldn't do it. She didn't have the support, like, you know what I mean? But she still always carried that guilt. And so it's almost like she turned some of that guilt into her motivation to, like, find her. So it's worth it. It's definitely worth the watch.
Okay, I will definitely check that out. I need something good to watch. I don't have anything on my list right now. Well, I do, but nothing I can watch without my family.
Yeah. And this, with it being 2 episodes, like, you know that you can get to the end in a good amount of time. Like, you know what I mean? You're not having to dedicate long amounts of time to watching to find out what happens.
They made that for moms. They're like, 2 episodes, we get you.
So, good episode this week. Good wine this week. It's a little sweet for me, but it's still good.
Yeah, still good. I just think it needs to be mixed with something. Like,
I agree.
Add it as like a little shot to like a regular glass of white wine, like, for a little flavor.
Like almost like a bourbon in it or something. I don't know. Or a whiskey.
Oh, yeah. I like that idea. May add a little bit to my coffee tomorrow morning. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where life takes us.
Keeping it interesting. Well, thank you everyone for listening. If you can't get enough of Crime Over Wine, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
And we'll see you next week for the next episode of Crime Over Wine Weekly.
Proud member of the Podnuga Network.